Hello everybody, my name is Megan. If you clicked on this video, you clicked on it for a reason. Most likely you have a feeling deep within your spirit that you should not fear, but you're seeking a deeper explanation as to why. Please let me first start off by saying that this is my first YouTube video. I really do have a very deep spirit, and within the last few years, God has really shown out in my life in the most amazing ways, in ways that are so very powerful that I truly feel called to share what I have learned with you. Throughout life, we're all going to be tempted to give into fear, but that is why it is so important to choose faith over fear. Faith is something that can be very hard to do. For example, you may be worried about a lot of different things. Perhaps you're thinking about your health. Perhaps you're worried about your job. Perhaps you're worried about your children, your parents. The list really does go on and on and on. But God tells us to not have a spirit of fear. He tells us to have a spirit of faith. He also tells us to wear our spiritual armor on a daily basis. The reason we wear our spiritual armor is to fight off attacks from the enemy. We may not even realize how often we are being attacked by the enemy. But spiritual warfare is a very real thing. It is not only being played out in our own lives, but it's being played out on planet Earth. And it's been that way pretty much since the beginning of time. And when it comes to your own personal life, it's so important to understand that fear truly is not from God. And if it is not from God, that means it comes from a dark place. Whenever anything comes from a dark place, we want to wear our spiritual armor that God tells us to wear every single day to fight it off. When it comes down to it, fear is a spirit, and we definitely don't want that dark spirit within us. Fear can cause us to have sleepless nights, give us panic attacks, and can be very, very debilitating. The interesting thing about fear is it's fake. It's a fraud. It comes from the enemy. The enemy wants you to doubt yourself. The enemy wants you to play the what if game in your mind. What if this happens? And then if that happens, what if that happens? Try to remind yourself of times in your life where you're very, very fearful and you thought to yourself, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this situation? How am I going to work through this? And here you are today looking back on that situation. And yes, you not only got through it, but looking back, you can see that God had the answer the entire time. You really need to remember, God is in control of our lives at all times. There is nothing to fear. Even if something happens that you just really don't want to happen, God will always give you that peace that surpasses all understanding to get through it. But I can pretty much guarantee that most of the things that we worry about for no reason. As we all know, life is very, very short. We don't want to come to the end of our lives thinking about all the unnecessary worry we put into our time when we really should have just kept the faith. And that's what it really comes down to, keeping the faith that God is in control of your life, that He loves you beyond measure to an extent that you could never ever possibly imagine, and understanding that He has a plan, a purpose for you that the enemy wants to steal. Please remember that. Again, spiritual warfare is a very real thing. The enemy is fighting you tooth and nail. If he cannot have your soul, he is going to do his darn best to ruin your life with fear, anxiety, and a lot of negative emotions. Your peace is your happiness. When you do not have anxiety, when you do not have depression, fear going on within your spirit, you have a state of peace going on. And within this dimension, that really is going to be the closest to the heavenly dimension that we are ever going to get, because there is no such thing as Disneyland every single day of our lives, unfortunately. But peace is a wonderful thing to have in our lives, and it's definitely something that's attainable with practice in our thought life and keeping a very active and close relationship with God, Jesus Christ. Because the closer you are to Jesus, the easier it's going to be to fight through those fearful thoughts. I don't like to use the word hate, but I truly do hate fear because it doesn't come from God. And I really hate the fact that it can cause people to have panic attacks. If you ever have a debilitating feeling because of your fear, please pray this simple prayer that I learned when I was 8 years old, and it has done me wonders throughout my life when I'm feeling fearful. Sacred Heart of Jesus, I place my trust in you. When you say those words, they are very, very powerful, but you truly need to internalize those words, believe those words for Jesus to show out amazingly in your life. I've learned it's very easy to ask Jesus for something, but if we do not have faith in what we are requesting and understand that it is going to take His will to answer that request, then it's really going to make a big difference in how God will answer that prayer. Because God is truly impressed with a faith filled spirit. Know that the enemy is going to attack you through different means. And that's why you really need to pay attention to your thought life, because that's where we're living. When the enemy attacks us with those automatic negative intrusive thoughts, it's truly up to us to latch onto Jesus Christ as much as we possibly can in faith. And he will give you his peace, the peace that surpasses all understanding, that can only come from him through your faith. Again, God tells us to wear our spiritual armor on a daily basis. That means whenever you feel attacked with invading fearful thoughts, it really is up to you to change the channel in your mind immediately and focus on faith-filled things, positive things. God tells us in the Bible to focus on things that are of a good rapport. He tells us that for a reason, because he knows how easy it is for our minds to get off track with a bunch of fear and anxious thoughts. Whenever those fear-ridden thoughts do attack your mind, please do change the channel to anything that's positive, to anything that's of a good rapport. And I found the best way to change that channel of your mind is to connect with God in that moment. Whenever you are out, say you're driving, you're going for a walk, maybe you're going for a bike ride, it doesn't matter where you are. You can always communicate with God through prayer by talking to him. Many people think that prayer needs to be some type of formal prayer. That's definitely a wonderful thing, but it's not the only way to pray to God. Definitely not. So the more active you are with talking to God on a daily basis, the more active you are with starting your day off in the right direction. Because I'm sure you know this, the way you start your day off really does set the tone for the way the rest of the day is going to go. Start your day off in faith. Start your day off by connecting with God and making a promise to him that no matter what person, situation, thing comes your way, you are not going to allow it to steal your peace. Your peace is yours. No matter how much it seems like it, your peace can never be stolen. You literally have to give it away. So never give your peace away. Never give any situation or person, thing, the right to take your peace from you. Always understand that it's yours. And it truly is something that has to freely be given away. So hold on to that peace, because the more peace you feel in your spirit, the easier it's going to be to ward off those negative intrusive thoughts of fear that are going to bombard your mind. And if you're like me and have had moments where you just feel a thought come on and you can kind of feel debilitated by it in that thought, where you just think to yourself, oh my goodness, this is just going to turn out terrible. There's no way around it. Well, just remind yourself of this. That comes from the enemy. It does not come from God. And if it does not come from God, you simply need to squash that thought down. The next time you have a negative thought like that, I really do encourage you to do that within the first 5 seconds of having that thought, because the longer the thought goes on, the easier it is for that thought to just fester in your mind. And then before you know it, you feel debilitated by fear. And that's not what you want, because the enemy is getting his way. Wear your spiritual armor every day. Know that God has made promises to you in the Bible. Stand on those promises where he says, with long life, you will persevere. Your latter days will be better than your former days. Remind yourself of those promises, because when you do, you are going to feel so much peace in your spirit. And that is truly God's peace, the peace that surpasses all understanding. And no one, no thing, no situation in life could ever give you that happiness of the peace that surpasses all understanding, because by definition, truly, happiness equals peace. Peace equals happiness. When you think of people that pass away, we really do have a tendency to say, they're at peace now, they're happy, they're with God. Now, why is it that we say that? It's because there's something deep within our spirit that knows that our loved ones are in a happier place with God. And if they're happier in that very peaceful place, well, wouldn't it only make sense that happiness equals peace, peace equals happiness? So always remember, the more peace you have in your spirit, the happier you're going to be. When it comes right down to it, the solution for conquering fear is having faith, understanding and knowing. That is what faith is, knowing without a shadow of a doubt that God is in complete control of your life. He has the answers to every single problem you may have going on, and truly casting all of your cares upon him. Because we really could only have it one of two ways. We could take our fears, worries, concerns on our own and just play the what if game all the time. And before we know it, find ourselves in a very debilitating, dark place in our mind. Or we can do as God says and cast our fears onto him. He wants to take care of them, and he is so impressed when we actually do that, when we actually give our problems over to him. So whatever it is that you're facing today, whatever it is that you're fearful of, know that God is in complete control, and literally just cast your fears onto him and let them all go. Do not carry them around with you. They are not for you to carry them around. They are for God to take care of. That is what he instructs us to do. Cast our cares upon him. He is the one that will take away all of your fears, all of your worries, and give you the peace that surpasses all understanding. So I really encourage you to have a very active relationship with God every single day of your life, because again, the more active your relationship is with him, the easier it's going to be to ward off of those negative, intrusive thoughts that try to bombard your thought life. God wants you to be happy. God wants you to be peaceful. Again, the definition of peace is happy, and that's what he wants for you. So the best way to combat fear is to understand that God is in complete control of your life. He wants the best for you, and he wants you to cast whatever fear you have in your spirit going on right now over to him. He wants to take it. So please give it to him, because you deserve that peace, the peace that surpasses all understanding that only God can give. I mentioned quite a bit earlier about spiritual warfare. Another good thing to do whenever you're facing a lot of fear is to pray against it. I'm going to include within the description box a wonderful, powerful prayer to pray against those spirits that are trying to come into your spirit and invade your thought life. It's very powerful, and it works because spiritual warfare is, again, a very real thing. It's been going on since the beginning of time. We see it's being played out on planet Earth since the beginning of the time, as well as our own personal lives. So whatever it is that you're facing today, I encourage you to face it head on with the spiritual armor that God gave you to wear. I also encourage you to have a very active relationship with God. Don't let him leave your heart. He loves you on a level that is just completely incomprehensible to the human mind. So hopefully you got something out of this video. I thank you for taking the time to watch. Until my next, again, I'm going to be going over a lot of subjects that are very important to obtain peace of mind. And that truly is the goal of this channel, to help you achieve peace of mind through different measures. And there are so many different ways to get there. For my first video, I really felt called to talk about fear, because I feel that God knows that a lot of his children are fearful, and he doesn't want us to be. He wants us to cast our cares onto him. And if you're interested in these types of videos and achieving a very peaceful spirit, I do encourage you to subscribe by clicking on that subscribe button below. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless you always.